Evening, everyone. It's being right at 7 o'clock here. We'll call the meeting to order. Jolene, you do roll call.
Councilmember Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Valento.
Here.
And Mayor Roberts.
Here. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item here is open forum. This is an opportunity to anyone to come up and speak on any city matter. Just please give us your name and your address. Oh, yep, I missed that one. So, all right, so we'll back up. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's start the open forum now. So again, this is an opportunity for anyone to get up and speak, talk about any city matter. Just give us your name and your address. No one signed up? All right, consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda this evening?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to remove item B from the consent agenda, please.
All right. Is there a motion then to approve consent agenda A and then C through G?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next agenda item then would be B, the minutes, approved minutes from the February 6, 2025 special council meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 6, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay, our first regular agenda item then is Forest Lake Lions and Forest Lake Masons Veterans Memorial Donation. And I believe we have some representatives from both organizations. If you'd like to come up to the podium and speak, that would be great.
Mr. Mayor and all the council people here today, on behalf of the Forest Lake Masons and the Forest Lake Lions, we'd like to present to you some money for the Veterans Memorial Fund. Just a little backdrop on that. Forest Lake Masons and the Lions, we have over the years done a handful of different fundraisers, different charitable events. We coupled several times during the COVID days and being able to do some drive-through events and let people have a little bit of normalcy to get some food and do some Halloween things. So I think we both share the feeling that we're better together than apart. So we enjoy coming together and for the betterment of the community. And I won't speak for the Lions. In fact, one of you, I'm sure, is going to tell us something really awesome. But as far as the Forest Lake Masons, they've been in the community since 1963, and we have about 110 members. And we do have the big check that doesn't cash very well, but it looks cool in a picture. And we have a check for $10,000 to the city of Forest Lake for the Veterans Memorial. And that came from efforts of both groups. And then Masons has a separate charitable fund that allowed matching of some of the funds that we earned that day. So we're able to put together this for $10,000 that we'd like to present to whoever, however. And did you?
Jolleen gets the check.
Jolene gets the check. Anybody else want to say something?
Just on behalf of the Lions, we always appreciate being in the community as the Masons. And I know we have a number of Lions that are in this room tonight, and both organizations are always open for more members. So if you got a little time, I know you only got about 8 nights a month of meetings. So if you got a couple other nights, we can help you out.
Oh, and I'm just going to add something that there are many Masons that are also Lions. So you don't have to decide, you can just have some double duty. I think that's it. At some point, we can get a picture, that'd be wonderful.
Yes, yes. So I just want to mention, I think it's great, especially two organizations like you teaming up together. This is truly a community project for the public that don't know. We're doing a large Veterans Memorial down at Lakeside Park, and you are just one of a number of organizations, individuals in the community that have really stepped up. And so we really do appreciate that. So with that, I will make a motion to accept with gratitude the Forest Lake Lions and Forest Lake Masons Veterans Memorial donation. That's Resolution 02242503.
I second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great. We're going to come down and take a quick photo with you right now, if that's all right.
Wonderful. Oh, this is free also. You and me, right? I'm the tall guy. Hey, give me some more fair warning so I can suck in.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Great, thank you guys.
I'll start up here.
Well, next week we'll wear all green.
All right, our next agenda, 7B, North Shore Reconstruction Open House Follow-Up and Possible Related Discussion. Just a little bit of a background there. We've been talking about this project since early last year. We had an open house on Tuesday, had a great turnout, and received a lot of feedback. So the idea is bring it back to council after that feedback and see if there's any changes or any different direction we want to give staff at this point. So I don't know if Mark or Ryan's going to take it first.
We'll both kind of tag team here. Ryan's got a presentation he's going to put up, just kind of review the background information again, reset ourselves, remind ourselves what's going on here, and then just have a couple of ideas that Ryan and I have put together in terms of alternate plans or just alternate looks at this project in relationship to the comments that we heard the other night, so.
All right, Mayor, City Council. I'll lean over a little bit here, I guess. So we're back here after having a construction public open house. A lot of feedback that occurred that's, I think we kind of knew in the back of our heads, based on some of the conversations you guys have had in March, April, and May, and the two presentations that were presented back in April and May. You know, we talked about what was in the current capital improvement plan. After that, we came back in May and presented what would some of these additional costs be, what would be some of the additional things that would have to be completed in this type of a project to allow for a trail. We talked about the comprehensive plan, where trail connections are planned in the long-term trail plan, and then we also talked about other projects that are in the capital improvement plan, the 10-year plan. Based out of that, we took the direction once plans were authorized and prepared them to where they're at currently right now, which includes work along the North Shore Trail. So remember, we combined two projects here. You got your annual local project that you guys finance with franchise fees and very small amounts from your enterprise funds, and then now the general tax levy that you started adding dollars to. So we always call that the local, whatever your maintenance project. And those roadways this year include Hayward Avenue, Itasca area and the Jason Avenue roadway. North Shore Trail was additional streets programmed in the capital improvement plan, and that would be a separate bond sale to finance that project. Nothing has pursued to the bond sale yet, but definitely within the next month, a lot of movement would take place on that, depending on what we discussed tonight here. So, so here's the project area that was talked about at the public open house, February 18th. 4:30 to 6:30, we had 66 people sign in. There's probably more people there than that, as some lingered in after we were talking and stuff like that, and some just generally walk by and don't sign in, but very well attended. So current scope of work for the project, it's in the capital improvement plan, and that was presented at the public construction open house, is we would go through and remove and replace all the CMP culverts. So the corrugated metal pipes and replace them with reinforced concrete pipes. There is some sanitary sewer work in this corridor that needs some replacements, force main for lift station 4T, and some drainage where necessary by installing curb. We've got some steep embankment areas that are just drainage runs right along that and freezes and then gets out in some of the drive lanes. Doesn't have anywhere to go. Remove and replace damaged curb in Itasca Avenue only. That's the only portion of this project that has concrete curb and gutter, and that's pretty routine on the local maintenance projects where you have an existing neighborhood. We try to salvage or keep as much concrete curb and gutter as possible instead of coming ripping it all out and replacing it. A lot of it's still good. It's just generally in areas that have either heaved, significant cracking, or around catch basin manholes have eroded and need to be removed and replaced in that area. And then the scope of the street work would be to mill down on North Shore Trail just because of the thickness of the pavement. That's an old county road. Remember, that's a turnback road that the city acquired from the county, and then we'd reclaim, full depth reclamation, reclaim in place and grade it and pave with new bituminous surface. The new surface from Greenway to 235th would be 4.5 inches of new bituminous, 2 lifts. And from 235th to Highway 97 would be 4 inches. That's calculated based on traffic counts and volumes that we have in that area. And then new striping and signage throughout the corridor. What wasn't included in the project scope would be extending the project limits out to people's driveways, driveway culverts. In Forest Lake, the driveway culverts are owned and maintained by the property owner. Now there's times where Public Works has gone and done simple things. If something's frozen and it's creating a major drainage issue, you know, house after house, to help on thaw some of that, but ultimately it's the ownership and maintenance responsibility of the property owner for their driveway culverts. In a major reconstructions, those do get included in projects, but just on a typical project like this, we wouldn't be going out and removing and replacing that. Major ditch grading, and then no pedestrian facilities, pathways, or sidewalks. So project costs, the city earlier estimated $5.9 million for the total project cost of North Shore Trail. Right now, we're estimating that project at 5.8. It still does have some contingency in it, so if we went to go bid right now today, I know it would come in under the total estimate of 5.8. On the CIP, you budgeted 5.9 million. The local 2025 street improvement project, these are all the exact names of the streets that are in that area in that map that I just showed you. And that's, the city budgeted 1.845 million for that. Right now we're estimating 1.65 million for that project. So that still does have some contingency built in. So going out to bid, that should come in lower than that as well. So additional conversation based on what we received at the public open house was obviously the area you see highlighted in purple was the area that had the most conversation that occurred that night. It's about just over a mile of roadway, talking from Greenway Avenue to 235th. So where Greenway stops and it then changes into North Shore Drive and goes all the way out to 61. That is in your capital improvement plan. Depending on the Highway 8 schedule, we're looking at 28 or 29 for that, and that is a full reconstruction. That's gonna have all utilities removed and replaced because the condition of the sewer, water. So we know we would have to come in with all that. We do have estimates within that project to extend water main all the way up to Greenway. So that's gonna be your biggest full recon since 15th Street Southwest over here by where the Ford dealership is now. So with that being said, the feedback that we got from the open house, lot of conversation. Why not a trail? You know, safety. Some of the things that we talked about when it was decided to move forward with the maintenance project was the cost. I mean, instead of we'll get into some costs later. You know, that's stretch alone. If we came and put a 10-foot trail and reconstructed that roadway, would have been few $100,000 more than the entire project that's we just presented and talked about, and that was approved in the capital improvement plan. But recognizing what was said, we put together some different additional information for consideration tonight and talk about that. So here's just a map for reference, quick reference for you guys that outlines where the trail system as identified in your comprehensive plan shows where those major trail routes are planned to go. Will it see my cursor? Yep. You do? Okay. So this is the area that we're talking about right here. That's North Shore Trail from Greenway to 235th. And then it shows it going down 235th someday. And this area has not been developed in here. There's a little potential, maybe development coming here. But someday that trail, it could snake, you know, farther over this way a little more or come into Camp Park. And then ultimately through this way, it goes through some existing neighborhoods, kind of some off in the woods, fields, trails, through some right of way that exists through there. Some of it's not anything improved. Might be able to walk it year round. I don't know right now. I don't know how wet it does get back there in the spring. But you would work your way down and then come down Keller Avenue, back to North Shore Trail, and back to the 97 ultimately. This trail plan was talked a lot with different committees, commissions, comprehensive plan, and went through a master parks trails update. And so just a lot of different venues this has been seen and supported, and this is ultimately a guide long-term where you want to get to, right? So just recapping back to the North Shore Trail project, current project is estimated at $5.8 million. That portion from Greenway to 235th is just under $1 million. From 235th to 97, it's just under $5 million. So those are the costs of the project that was presented, and that was asked to move forward to design. If things went perfectly well at the public open house, this would be the anticipated schedule that the project was following. We added in that March 10th dates based on some of the items we're gonna bring back on lane width striping and stuff like that. And here would be the rest of the project anticipated schedule. Looking at some alternative scope, probably the biggest question is, do we do nothing with North Shore Trail between Greenway and 235th now, save those dollars, and add that to North Shore Drive and extend that project as one large reconstruct, and then you would be bringing trail up with that project. North Shore Drive probably is smarter to design if you're doing two reconstructs together, because that one's gonna kind of steer what side after you get through all the field work, and then public. You'll have a lot more public process, because we know we were gonna go into a recon with that right away, right? That's what's in our capital improvement plan. The desired preferred side, what trail the road will be on and stuff like that, and that'll then obviously carry into this area if there's that strong desire to have a trail on North Shore Trail now in the next 2 to 5 years, right? That's probably the timeline we're looking at versus out 20 years later, right? So is the best thing not to do anything with that stretch of road now and piggyback it off that project, right? So then looking at all the alternatives to buy down project costs for still looking at the maintenance project. Here's just 3 different options that alternatively you could do. They all, they come with pros and cons. Obviously the pros, each of them get cheaper, but the con is there's things that come along with them that might not be what's ultimately you want to see in a project that is going to bring you right back within a few years to deal with some stuff. So with the current project, we're replacing the full bituminous, right? Remove and replace. So our retroflect, I can't say these things in my mouth. You're going to get reflective cracking that comes through the surface, and even sometimes 3 to 6 months with some of the stuff here. Now the top one, the 2.5-inch overlay, is probably going to have the most significant reflective cracking, and will probably occur the fastest because there's still a lot of existing bituminous out there, and you didn't touch any of the subgrade. But when you kind of break it all out, so what you see on the screen, Administrator Statz brought this up, goes, they're all, if they hit their year marks, that's really about $300,000 a year you're looking at. So it's all kind of now to preference, how long do you want something to last, right? So we feel that the full pavement replacement in this area based on traffic volumes and current use, you got a 20-year road. Now you're gonna have to go do some crack filling in there over that 20 years, yes. Typically we try to be back at a roadway within 7. That's how we kind of laid out the crack filling program. And alternatively looking at here, now I'm only looking at, do we leave 230, that section that we talked about in the trail plan? That's one question. Do we change our preferred scope of work for the maintenance portion of the next leg of North Shore, or do we just look at something entirely different? But here's 3 separate other options. You can see how they would relate to the original construction cost. So right here on the top one, Greenway to 235th. If we came in and milled 2.5 inches down and overlaid 2.5 inches back, we would be at $600,000. The original cost that I just talked to you about, the project presented in the CIP and was presented at the public open house, is $944,000. All 3 of these projects still though do include culvert replacements. Based on talking with Public Works, a lot of those corrugated metal pipe culverts are not going to make it 2 or 3 years. So all those costs are still in here in each of these 3 options, and the sanitary sewer work too. So it's not just road. So you're still getting all that other stuff that needs to be done now, and that type of work, those things will, be last forever in that area with this type of work. Storm sewer work in that first segment that I talked about is only about $15,000. There's a significant amount of storm sewer work in the outside of 235th and down to 97. So even if you went to go replace a few culverts now, and you only had that project out there for 4 or 5 years, you're really out $15,000 of storm sewer, and some of that stuff you might be able to even salvage. So it'll be in good condition, or we even have the contractor take it to public works shop too. So that's something we could do with that. But anyway, what I got laid out here is what that scope of work would cost, and then in parentheses, you see that number in parentheses is all the same down. That way you can easily compare it to what the construction costs or the total project costs in those areas would be if we did the scope of work presented. So North Shore Trail, another one we looked at is ultra thin bonded overlay, 3/4 inch mill, and then it would be, I got the mill. I slapped this together really quick this afternoon, so some of my, now I'm reading it out loud, I wish some words were a little different, so that's why I'm a little stuttery here today. And then we come back with 3/4 an inch overlay over the entire way from that long section from 235th to 97. This is probably the one that's gonna be the best against reflective cracking, just because of its strength and how its thickness is much less than the 2.5. The 2.5 inch just an overlay on the existing bituminous, that's gonna have the fastest reflective cracking to occur. And I know Public Works would be having to probably line up some crack filling with that within a year. I mean, that's what's gonna happen with that one. And then the last one is the microsurfacing. To compare that, some of you guys are familiar when we microsurfaced Forest Road right here. We didn't want to put any real investments into that as we knew Highway 97 projects going on, and we didn't know how far we might come back down the corner with the County Road 32, so we just did that to limp that road around. But these three other options for maintenance on North Shore Trail, the top one, typically that you're looking at a 10-year scope of work, or 10-year last in there. The ultra-thin bonded lay, 7 years, and the last one, microsurfacing, 3 years. So those about the life of those before you're gonna have to start doing something else. But this is where Administrator Statz has calculated it out to and goes, this is about $300,000 a year. It just depends on, do you want something to go for 10, 7, 3? You know, now sometimes they go a little further than, you know, what paper says, because just the conditions that are used. All of a sudden, if we did have a development in this area and a bunch of construction equipment was running up and down that area, that then would obviously have a significant toll on that type of work that we do. The one thing other than the local projects that I just showed you in that local maintenance projects, we have worked our way out to North Shore Trail. So we would not be having a future city project in this area in some long time down the road. We've basically done everything in the area and worked our way out of there. So really, we're looking at the local maintenance project, and then North Shore Trail right now. So that was just the things that we wanted to bring up tonight to talk about, you know, based on, you know, the project schedule we're looking at. If there's the appetite to take out that section of roadway that we just outlined tonight, that's lined up for a, you know, long-term trail, now is the time to do it and not take this project any farther in that particular area before we finalize permits too. And, you know, we don't want to be permitting for something that's in a project and then deal with more area that's within there that's not really going to be part of the project. So I guess I'll just open up with any questions we have at this time right now, and hopefully address any issues or concerns you guys have, and or if we need to make any revisions to the project that we can stay on track with the desired schedule.
Brian, what do you think of the water table and stuff in that area? I know that there's a lot of cracking and stuff already in the road, and it's been down for quite some time. Do you think with all the shifting, do you think it's better to go with a thicker overlay, or?
I don't think the 2.5-inch overlay on existing pavement, that's, I don't know, we don't know how many years is old, because it's old county road, and back in the day, you just kept overlaying because bituminous was so cheap, right? You know, we have our geotechnical work, but by coming in with that, on existing pavements, you're gonna get more reflective cracking faster. The cracks will be bigger than your other stuff. There's no full section in there. It's just a road paved on gravel. Yes, you got that, but you got no sub-base, you got no sub-drainage in those roadways. There's gonna be areas that you're not gonna be able to achieve. You know, that's, you know, when you get so close to the lake and you got terrain right behind it. So you're gonna always have some cracking in some of these areas, but there's definitely other areas that I think will perform better with thinner on this at this point in time, because right now, if you just mill down and add 2.5 inches back, that's a lot of weight on existing pavements. So that's gonna be able to move during freeze-thaw cycles a lot better than it would if it was a brand new full layer, typical section of pavements that can move uniformly together. And, you know, just looking out my door this morning when I let my dog out, and I was just looking in the road, about every 40 feet, pavement likes to crack, right? I mean, it's just, and I'm in all sand, so on a hill, so. It's just, it's a flexible pavement, it's gonna crack, but you're gonna get with 2.5 inches on existing pavement, you're gonna get it to crack, it's gonna crack a lot faster.
Thank you.
If I may interject,
Yeah,
you know, I think just to kind of frame in the real simple terms here, what we're, I think, trying to get a handle on is, do you want to delay the portion from 35th in order to more fully explore a trail in that section as was presented in our. Next question is, from 235th down to 97, do we want to scale back the scope of work? And I think essentially you have 4 options. Stick with the scope that's been presented, or any of the 3 that are up on the screen right now. Brian and I would be, I think our least favorite is the top one. I think any of the other 3, including the existing scope, we're comfortable with. It's just a matter of what kind of investment you want to. The secondary question with this portion is there any thought that in the next 20 years you want to explore a trail south and east of 235th on North Shore Trail? That's not been in the comprehensive plan. It's not on any sort of trail map, but people have talked about, you know, we had a lot of discussion about the on-road type trail. If you want to do an off-road trail there, that's a major, major undertaking. You know, it happened quickly. And so, but if you go with the scope that's been presented, that better be a 20-year scope. You're essentially committing yourself to not doing a trail perfectly valid. But that's kind of what we wanted to just take this time to make sure everyone understands that if you go with the scope that's presented, we do not intend to come back there for 20 years, 5 or 30, right? Because you're making a significant investment there. And that's going to be the road for the next 20 to 30 years. I think if you want to break it out into those sort of 2 questions.
Okay, thank you for that. So I've got a number of thoughts here, but I think I would let anyone else, and if Jeff and Kevin, if you have any other questions, because this is relatively new to you as opposed to the 3 of us were on and talked through a lot of this back in September, or I guess it was March or April. We did contemplate putting a pause on that Greenway to 235th. Ultimately, the previous council decided not to do any additional trail. I was more in favor, but I think what changed the council, not speaking for you and the 2 of you, is that Ryan also pointed out all the different issues we have throughout the city that we need to address here in the next X amount of years. Do you want to hit on a couple of those, maybe just off the top of your head if you have?
Sure. So I'll just start with the co-op agreement projects. So when I say that, that means it's a project being led by Washington County or the state of Minnesota, but we have a significant local share in those projects based on the cost share policies. We just finished, obviously, Everton Avenue, or County Stated Highway 33, which goes by Menards. So with that, we had a significant investment with the streetlights and the trail that went in there, and then other components in that project that's fall within Washington County's cost share. So that's, I can bring back those final numbers so you got a better idea how much that local share was, but that was in the millions. And then right now we got Highway 97 with MnDOT. That's going to be a 25, 26 year. Our local share with that project is 1.8 million right now estimated. Now if bids come in higher, then that will go up accordingly. Bids come in lower, it can go down too, right? So with that though, there's quite a bit of water main with that project, but luckily MnDOT has a very favorable cost share policy versus Washington County does. So our local share on the state project with all the things that are coming is way less than the 2 county projects. So with that's, you know, this is all then taking away our state aid funds, right? So our state aid construction dollars, we're basically don't have any of that to spend on our own local roadways. It's going to cover our local share on these co-op agreement projects. And then 2027, Washington County is planning on doing County Stated Highway 32 or 11th Avenue right here. And we're hoping to find out in March we're successful on some federal money that would definitely lower our local share and cover the realignment of Forest Road. That's not successful. We're back to the original design where it's gonna be the right in, right out at Forest Road, but then our local share is very significant because we didn't have that extra money that we've been applied for, and our hopes are high, but you just don't know until they make that final announcement in March. So that could be in the millions too on that. And then Washington County just released an RFP for consultant services down at County Road 50 and Highway 61. And that'll be an intersection improvements 28 or 29, just depend on when they get that design ready, but there's gonna be a significant local share in that project. So basically our state aid construction funds are gone till 2030, 2031. We might even have to ask the county to stagger our payments on that one, unless other stuff, comes in reasonably good and we're successful on that funding. We were very fortunate with Eureka Avenue where we got $4.5 million from state bond there, bonding bill to finance that project. Still going through a lot of permitting with the DNR. It's been in the DNR's hands since August, and we just need that easement before we can proceed with anything else there. That project has had some things added to it that's we weren't aware until you get through the design. Power pole replacements in there have taken that project over budget. So that's, still in the contingency of the project, but there's gonna have to probably be a few additional dollars set forth towards that project. And then just the local streets projects that are ongoing, that's just trying to keep up with that stuff, but then there's some larger reconstructs that are in the 10-year capital improvement plan that include North Shore Drive. I think that was 9.8 to 10.5 million, that stretch. Just depending on what construction year we actually do it, and just in looking at inflation. We got 12th Street Southwest in there. That's another double-digit $1 million project. Harrow Avenue, we got all that development that's coming in that area, and if you wait too long, you're just gonna make things even more difficult getting all that traffic in and out of there when you gotta do that. So those are some of the other ones that are in the CIP that are some of the bigger projects that's haven't been tackled yet and are in that long-term cities plan that's we all kind of talked about. And then, you guys just finished your downtown study, and there's been a lot of conversation on what investment will be made there. And doesn't have a funding source at this point in time too. So there's just a lot of things that we brought up and talked about at that meeting in May. And just want to be conscious about dollars and where they're going. You can't just raise taxes, as easy as it sounds, but, it affects a lot of other things that the city has, and we'll have to make priorities because those local projects, you don't want to say no to that when they're bringing that type of investment on, especially the situation. 97 is just awful in the mornings. And the improvement that's coming forward with that is going to have a trail along the whole entire south side of that roadway. It's going to connect into the Hardwick Creek Trail. And then back in 2027, we planned on doing just a pavement maintenance project on Fenway, but extending the trail from the athletic fields all the way to the 97 trail. So now you're going to have all these extra loops in town that you didn't have 2 or 3 years ago with the 2 county projects, the state project, and just a few local projects here and there. So those are some of the projects that Mayor Roberts asked me to bring up.
So I think all that good news is what made the previous council say, maybe we just can't afford to do this. However, I'm open to have a little bit longer conversation on this and see. On top of this, we don't really have a plan to go out and rehab and fix our existing trails in the city. So that's a whole nother expense. So you're adding more trail when we don't even have funding to maintain the ones we currently have, and that's concerning. So I guess I would open it up to thoughts.
Couple of questions. Ryan, you mentioned if we redeveloped that Greenway to 235th with a trail, what do you estimate the cost of that 1 mile to be able to put that trail, and what's the cost of that scope of work?
Just over 6, right, Ryan? We don't need exact numbers.
So when we presented that back in May, we looked at a 32-foot face-to-face with a 10-foot trail right off the back of that curb. That was estimated at 6.2 million from Greenway to 235th. We also then just looked at what a 28 face-to-face, when I say face-to-face, concrete curb and gutter on both sides, with the 10-foot trail, that was at 5.9 million. Those estimates did not include any property acquisition, remove or replace any landscape features, and water main expansion was not included in there. So with the North Shore Drive, we are estimating and have those numbers budgeted for to take the water main to all the way to Greenway. And there's a lot of density on that north side of the lake that's potentially you could extend water main to if you reconstructed the North Shore Trail area from that area too. So maybe get fire service extended out that way a little bit too.
With the right-of-way situation that we have in that stretch of land, what are we thinking as far as land acquisition? What is that going to look like for us?
We would have to research 38 properties to see what the actual paperwork all says. There's a lot of variations on right-of-way through here, and then you would go into laying a design out. How would you achieve it? How would you fit it? And probably vent that publicly too, then before you actually know ultimately how much land you'd be looking to take, and or wetland mitigation. You could either buy bank credits or you could go mitigate, but typically you just go buy the credits because there's nowhere to mitigate out here.
Can I follow up on that real quick? So on the 38 properties, is that contemplating both sides not knowing which side we would land on? Or is it on the 38, so maybe you would have to do the research on it, but it would likely maybe be half of that if you're choosing one side or the other?
You could potentially reduce that, but in this area, there's some areas that don't have recorded right away. So we would have to research the properties if there's any recorded easement on it. If not, you definitely would want to obtain an easement. That would account for a permanent easement for the public infrastructure.
I wasn't there for the open house, but based on from those of you that were, if we were to spend somewhere between $6 and $10 million for that 1 mile stretch and put in a trail that would ultimately hook up to 235th and go quite a ways away from the lake, you have a sense that that would actually achieve what the group that was there is looking for?
I think they want a trail. I don't know if it absolutely necessarily has to be there. My question to Ryan was, Ryan, have we explored, and I know in planning we talked about a lot of different options for the trail system. I know parks and everybody's talked about it over the years, but other than North Shore to 235th, could we go up further north around off of North Shore and tie those trails in the future to make it easier and less expensive, hopefully, than running it right along North Shore? Plus, I believe it'd be 100 times safer.
This is all wetland right near. Your city boundary is right here.
Okay?
So, you'd really have to go way far around this whole wetland complex not to snake it in here, or you'd have to go outside city limits. There's actually some houses, correct me if I'm wrong, Abby, that actually are in the city to the north of us, but their driveway comes back to Forest Lake. That's how close that north border is, right there. So I don't think there's a better way for the city of Forest Lake to have a trail. Now, if someday Wyoming up here did something, but you're gonna have to go around all this wetland complex that's in here. And then this is all wetland too, right? So you turn between 35th, and then once you get east of there, that's when you get to some of the developable land again. And all this area is in the MUSA boundary, so it can be sewered. You can get, pretty good density in there. But there's just a significant amount of wetlands all through in here.
So other than the wetlands, which I understand are a challenge, and working with the watershed, I'm guessing we would have to face, you could build a boardwalk of some sort through there, couldn't you, versus just asphalt and pavement? Is that a lot more expensive?
Boardwalk's very expensive and very high in maintenance. Public Works would not like me for building a boardwalk.
I'm just curious, I'm just asking. Can't do it in Trex? Okay. Can I ask another question? A couple questions I have, Ryan. So just so I'm clear on the mill and overlay, we are not doing anything with the soil underneath the road? We're not compacting, we're not bringing in class 5, we're not doing any,
No,
so
if-
basic leveling?
So if you're doing a mill and overlay, you're just taking off a few inches out the top. The pavement's much thicker than 2.5 inches out there right now.
Right.
So we're just bringing it down 2.5 inches and putting 2.5 inches back. With the 2.5 inch overlay, you would have a nice smooth surface, but then you're gonna get a lot of that cracking that will occur 3 months, 6 months, and then it just keeps going, right? And then, yeah, it's gonna be smooth for that first few months, and rollerbladers will probably love it, but then it definitely loses that smoothness because of the cracking over a lot faster than it would if you replace the full pavement entirely. But there's obviously the cost difference too, right?
Right.
But the mill and overlay is not part of the scope of the original project, correct?
The only reason, we do have to bring a mill in because of how thick the pavement is before we come in and full depth reclamation, grind up the material in place.
And at this time, we don't have weight restrictions on those roads other than the seasonal weight restrictions?
Seasonal weight restrictions, and those actually go off Friday nights.
And so weight on,
Huh? Oh, the increase goes on. Yeah. Do
okay.
you special post the roads? We just do all roads blanketed, right?
All city roads are 5 ton except for county and state. We follow basically their rules, but we don't stray off of that, otherwise it gets too confusing. You look like a bunch of people drew crayons on a map if you, one's a 7 and this one's a 9 and this one's a 5, and we just 5 ton.
And it comes down to enforcement too. If somebody really wants to make a couple loads, they're gonna go get it done, and nobody's gonna know.
Okay, I
If
think
it's a
that's all I have
continuous
right now.
project.
Thank you.
I'm still curious about my question, though. For those that were there, doing this 1 mile, is that gonna scratch the itch that they're looking for?
You know, I don't think it's going to completely make everyone pleased. However, you know, just based on what our long-term plan was for this, I think it's going a long ways more than what the original project was going to be, which was nothing.
I think maybe if I, Mr. Mayor, if you stick with the original scope, you're saying we're not ready to do the trail now, but what you're also saying is you're not ready to do it for the next 20 years. And I think that's where the little tougher pill for the folks to swallow was that telling us by the time I'm dead and gone, or, you know, my kids are now maybe here, it's just so far out to think about before we have that trail in place. I think there's real questions though about what's it gonna connect to and will it connect? I mean, Ryan showed you some of the possible developments over there. Certainly some of the other parts of that trail, if you wanna go back to the trail map, Ryan. Everything east of the park, you know, all that stuff that goes along Julep and that area, that's all really long-range stuff.
And some of it might not be paved for a long time. You might come in with a gravel trail or a wood chip trail at some point in time just to have that connection made. And then program it in. And, you know, so it's, obviously if we know there's the clear direction, right, in this first segment of the roadway, do we want a trail? If you say yes, then we take this out of the project. Are we gonna go chase some money? Yeah, definitely, because we will have a story. I mean, this has been in your comprehensive plan for a long time. This isn't something that we just created to go submit in a grant. So you have that there. You have the Highway 8 project coming. that's bringing the Swedish Immigrant Trail down the entire length of that roadway, which is gonna connect into
Hardwood Creek.
Hardwood Creek Trail. And then you got it going all the way up to Chisago City, right there at Carmel Avenue. And then you got, you know, with the North Shore Drive project, that's gonna have a trail connect south to 61 in your downtown, right? So there's gonna be a story in future grant applications. It's just, is this gonna be your priority in the next 5, 6 years? Or are we really gonna wait 20 years and still have to come back and do something in the meantime to North Shore Trail here, right? That's kind of, I think, the other question too, is where is it gonna fall in all those projects? Where's it gonna fall in the priorities? It's gotta be more this way if we don't wanna do anything there now and ramp this up for a portion to have a trail.
So if I can take a shot at this, unless Hannah, you.
No,
you
go
have it.
for it.
Okay, so I guess my thought, and this was my thought back in May when we discussed this, was that we put a pause on North Shore from Greenway to 235th to take some time and do some more research, do the property, inquire on the properties, see if we can chase some money, get some grants. And ultimately, maybe we end up at the exact same place we are tonight, where we just have to do what's proposed. But at least we've taken the time, let the public know we've really vetted this and see if there's some options here. If we weren't coming back with another project on North Shore Drive where, regardless whether we do the trail or not, we'll have a project there very close that we could tie in with this one. And I think it just makes sense to not commit ourselves on this piece here, especially that's what the comprehensive plan says. Now, going further south or all along the lake, yes, that would be ideal. It's just, I just don't think it's realistic. We've talked about the lanes being narrowed so we can have an additional foot on each stripe, so there's additional foot on each side shoulder. Talking with some bikelists and runners the other night, they were like, that would be a game changer to have an extra foot to give themselves a little more comfort on doing that kind of activity along North Shore. So that's just where I'm leaning, but open for more.
Yep, Mr. Mayor. So I feel it's a lot like the Public Works buildings. You know, this would be, if we did it this way, just what we've talked about originally, it'd be like putting a Band-Aid on what we really intend to do and what the comprehensive plan has intended us to do for quite a few years now. So I think I'm in agreement that maybe we pause on this Greenway to 235 and come back or look at that a little bit more closely and then make the decision.
I think, Ryan, you'd mentioned in a conversation maybe that we could still do a little bit of some pothole filling or smoothing out to make that, you know, a little bit better for the next 2 years for a minimal amount of money. Maybe we don't have to, but that part there out of the whole 8 miles seems like it's in the best shape from Greenway to 235th, as opposed as you continue to go east, it seems to get worse. So if we did wait 2 years, it's not,
Go to the next slide, please.
it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world.
Go down with the 3 options you gave us. So you like either do the microsurface or the ultra-thin bonded on that 1 mile section?
Possibly, if it was determined that we thought that was best. I don't know if we need to make that decision tonight. I think we don't have to make any decision tonight. We need to give some direction. But again, I'm leaning towards pausing that section and move forward, get bids out and move forward on 235th to 97. And then if we decide after the spring, maybe is there an opportunity when spring, everything's done thawing, or that we could do some additional work there if we needed to, just to get us through for another couple more years?
You could always go quote, do a quote project for that area. It's, well, if I took out some of the stuff that's in that 202 to got down to 175, then we just do a quote package. That way you don't have to actually go out for bids, or otherwise, you know, if we're leaving it, I would probably leave it. Public Works probably would do some routine patching there. But if we recognize something needed some something out there, maybe just microsurfacing next year or the year after, you can always just go do a quote project for that particular area. It's a mile roadway. You're still gonna get good bids on that project. I mean, we got really good bids when we did Forest Road here, and that area is longer than Forest Road, so. If you think it's the best part of the road, right, why put money into it if
Right.
you really are coming back in 4 or 5 years, other than some normal day-to-day patching that might need to be done in a couple spots?
Hopefully, we wouldn't have to do anything. The other options too, I think, with just the mill and that, that road is just, it's just so bumpy with just the soil conditions. And so the other thing of backing off on the rest of it to any of these levels, we've really set up an expectation to the public already about what this is going to look like and what we want to do. And so to back off of that wouldn't make me real comfortable.
I wouldn't want to do that. We have a couple follow-up questions, though. I noticed that there's a number of other residential streets being done as part of the local project. I think I saw in some email update that there was a number of streets that were called out on Thursday night. Are those the streets, or is there other streets that should be considered?
So some of the other streets we heard about were Inman Avenue and 224th, and those are gravel roads. So per your assessment policy, they would have, whether the city could petition or, request a project, but generally that's, you're looking, I don't know what the percent offhand, but your assessment policy requires so many people or percent to petition for that road, and then you guys would have to order that project. That would be a 429 project, assessment project. Your assessment policy states going from a gravel road to an improved road is 100% assessed to the property owners. So I don't know if the whole neighborhood would allow that. That's, not very many houses, and some of the houses come out to North Shore Drive or Trail, so that'd even be a harder fight to get them to pay for something when they don't even have access to that road. The other one was Irish Avenue. Sounds like it was just a in-house job done well before Dave's time. They paved it on it's a steep hill, very, very skinny, one-way traffic only. But I also believe that the resident that lives on that hill adjacent to it wrote an email to city planner that was forwarded to myself that states, you are not expanding the road into my front yard. It's just a very bad situation, a very narrow, steep, short road that comes right out to North Shore Drive, and I hope people don't use it in the wintertime, right? I hope they go out to 234th to Inman. So those are the ones I have noted down. That's also outlined in the memo that's included in your packet below City Administrator Statz's memo, so for future reference.
Thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are in the sense of expanding our connectivity with trails and or sidewalks. I'd be open to pausing Greenway to 235th so that we can look at it more to see if a trail is and or sidewalk is beneficial in that area. And because I assume most homeowners would want a trail. With that being said, I would actually be open to doing either the second option or probably the second option, because that one, how long would that one last?
7 years.
I'd be more favorable to that one if we do the rest from 235th to 97, because 20 to 30 years without a sidewalk or a trail, that's a really long time.
I think we need to give that section that much life if we're gonna try to do something when we do North Shore Drive in 3 to 4 years.
Well, that's where if we do the bottom one, that's 3 years, so that's way too soon. And then the top one isn't preferable. So it's almost like I would want something that goes ideally longer so that in our 10-year budget plan, we can get it out a little bit further. But just going for 20 to 30 years without a trail, knowing that so many people want a trail there, even though with all the houses there and like I don't know. I just think it's something that we could, our time is of the essence with this project, but it is something to consider. There's so many houses right there. I can only imagine that they would want a trail, want that connectivity.
Are you talking along the whole length of North Shore? Yeah. So there, in this area out here, there are no sidewalks, right? There are no pedestrian facilities in any of the neighborhoods. So sometime too, if this gets snaked through this new development would be required to put a sidewalk in. So you would have something meandering. Once this develops in here, you would start having something meander back to these neighborhoods over time. I mean, this depends on how fast this develops, right? And you could start bringing in some sidewalk projects in these neighborhoods. Or otherwise, if you are looking down North Shore Trail, you would have to be acquiring from some property to fit that stuff. And that's right in that area, that stormwater BMPs right in here.
Anyone remember that one?
There's
Those
nowhere to go
conversations?
west.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not willing to die on this hill. I'm just saying I think it's something to take into consideration because I don't drive North Shore Trail all that often because I live on the south side of town. But I know that if I lived there, being a younger person with a family, with even like neighbors, I would want that option for a trail there. I think people probably walk it now without a trail, and it's dangerous with how fast people drive, and I think it would just be a nice amenity for all those houses right there, for it to be right by the lake, and just, I think it would be a nice amenity. But again, I won't die on that hill.
So if we were $6 million for 1 mile, right, like with the trail, if from 230, that what it could be from Greenway to 235th, and then that goes out another 6 or 7 miles, you know, you're at $36 million to get out there, and that's probably best case scenario.
That doesn't include land acquisition costs.
Right.
You're 50 million easy.
I agree with you. That would be very ideal, but
Is there a
Numbers
way
ever add up.
eventually to split the project up in phases?
well, you can.
Mr. Mayor, if I might,
Yeah.
Ryan, did that 6 million include sewer and water work?
No. The sanitary sewer is between the road and the houses, right, closer to the houses than it is actually the road.
So on the piece that we're talking about from Greenway to 235th, that's including curbs and sanitary and water, right?
So the reason for curb is because we got also a lot of wetlands, got a lot of driveway stuff to fit that footprints. Coming in and reconstructing that, we're gonna fill in the ditch on one side so you could fit a trail. So you're gonna have to take stormwater somewhere too. So that's the reason why it was estimated with curb and gutter. Now, during design, are there some areas you could potentially eliminate some curb and have it maintain some ditching on one side? Maybe. But, you know, without getting into the full design and running cross sections and tying into people's driveways and that are close up there and how that all would work, it was estimated with curb and gutter on both sides.
No water. No water.
No water main, but that's something, if North Shore Drive was done, had water main brought there, you could extend water at some distance to make it make sense, you know.
So, any additional thoughts, or does someone, obviously you don't need a motion here, would you like a motion, or just more direction, or what do you think would be best?
I think if we're gonna, Ryan is planning to bring back some additional information regarding the section from 235th to 97 in regard to the on-road trail, so the straight. Before we bring that to you and have that discussion tonight, we want to vet a few, not rules, state aid type stuff about trails and direction, pedestrian and bikes combined. look a little bit more of the safety data. We did look at that a little bit. Bring back a little bit more robust information for you to consider when we finally make a decision on 4-foot shoulders, a 2-foot and a 6-foot, a 3-foot and a 5-foot. You know, those decisions we want to bring back to you at the 10th, the next meeting. So just perhaps based on a conversation today, back a little bit more all vetted information to you.
So my understanding, so we're all on the same page, is we would be looking to eliminate the portion of the North Shore Trail from Greenway to 235th. That will not be included in the scope of the project. And then I guess from 235th to Highway 97, are we looking at the current scope of work that's been planned? I thought I heard that from a couple council members.
Able, if nothing else, right?
I think that seems like direction, and then with feedback on how maybe that's striped, how we could optimize that space as much as possible or as safely as possible.
Okay, and just remember all the options that we presented and the original scope of work from 235th to 97 still will include all that storm sewer replacements, sanitary sewer repairs, and some minor grading, ditching, and new striping and signage.
I think, I feel comfortable with that if the rest of you do. I think it's a good happy medium right now. It gives us a little bit more time. Again, we may land in 2 years or whatever, right back where we are and doing what we proposed up to this point, but at least we've taken the time to look at it. I think it's important that we do that. Appreciate that long discussion. And I'm glad it's a shorter agenda, so we had that time to really vet this out, so thank you. So next item, 7C, Ordinance Amendment for 2025 fee schedule, and Jolene, looks like you're going to walk us through that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. In your packet was a memo and a revised fee schedule. If you recall, in December, at our only meeting in December, Council did approve the 2025 fee schedule. Since that time, as is usually the case, staff has noticed a few changes that were needed. One of those changes was including our cannabis registration fees. So you'll notice that is highlighted in the fee schedule, a significant addition. That wasn't included in the original 2025 fee schedule because the fee schedule was approved moments before that cannabis registration ordinance was approved. So that's why that was not included the last time council took a look at this. A couple of the other changes that are highlighted in the staff memo that Jessica did put together for us. Administrative citations, there was a legal and administrative cost line item added to the fee schedule. The park and recreation fees, the Park and Recreation Coordinator did recommend changing the 3-hour minimum for field usage to a 2-hour minimum. So that change has been reflected. Planning and Zoning added a consulting billing new line item, which references the engineering fees exhibit. We previously did not list out in our fee schedule legal or engineering fees. We've added those to increase transparency so residents know what those fees are and what the city pays for those services. In the police section of the fee schedule, we added cannabis use in public places. Fee. Some of you will recall in 2023 that there was an ordinance that was passed which prohibits the use of cannabis in public places. When that ordinance was passed, that was never, the fee for that violation was never included in the fee schedule. We've added that now so that we're, on the same page. The development projects section was slightly changed because when the fee schedule was contemplated by council in December. The $2,000 was inadvertently removed, making it a $5,000 fee for that's for the park dedication, right? So we've just made that correction so that we're not charging only a $500 park dedication fee. It's correctly noted now as $2,500. And as I mentioned, the legal services and the engineering fee exhibits were added just to increase transparency. So staff's just looking for a motion this evening to approve Ordinance 748, an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 35, fees and service charges, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Council, anyone have any questions on any of these changes? I just have one question, and I guess would be on that. The ball field rental from 2 to 3 hours, that was based on Kyle just maybe knowing what the usage is and thinking that 3 hours is just too long?
My understanding.
Okay. Any other questions? Is anyone interested in making a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 fee schedule ordinance 748, an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 35 fees and service charges.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So 7D, Airport Rules and Regulations Steering Committee. And Amanda, you want to walk us through that?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor, Council. So if you recall, at the last, I believe it was the last meeting or perhaps the meeting before that, the council voted to approve a proposal by Bolton and Mank through Silas, the airport engineer, to work on airport rules and regulations for the airport. Right now, we have something called guidelines, which isn't the great name of a document that we're trying to make enforceable. As part of the creation of these new minimum standards and rules and regulations for the airport, we need to create a steering committee that's going to develop these new documents. That consists of, the recommendation from Silas is that will consist of 2 members of the council, 2 members of the airport commission, the city administrator, and the city attorney. There will be 4 meetings that this committee would be a part of. The kickoff meeting, a meeting once the documents are 60% done, once they are 90% done, and then a final meeting. What I'm looking for from the council tonight are 2 members from the city council who would like to be on the steering committee, and then how you would like to select the members from the airport commission. If the council wants to just select them, or if the council would like to direct staff by way of the city administrator to talk with the airport commission on Wednesday, and they can select 2 of their members at their meeting on Wednesday. So who would you like from the council to be on this steering committee?
So we talked a little bit about this, and initially, Councilmember Valento was willing to do that. We hadn't placed Councilmember Miller, and so knowing that some of this and some liaison positions might change, we talked to Councilmember Miller about being on that along with myself, if the rest of the council is agreeable to that.
Good head nods, all right. And then for the 2 members from the airport commission, would the council like to select those, or would you like to punt to the airport commission and have them select on Wednesday?
Yeah, I think it would be best because I don't know their schedules. I don't
Right.
know. So I'd prefer someone who would be more willing to do it instead of someone who's like, oh, I got picked to do that. So just someone who's a little bit more motivated to be in that group and that fits with their schedule. So I'm all for it.
Okay,
I would agree that they know their bandwidth, and I'm sure they'll find 2 people that are willing to serve.
perfect. And then are you good with just Mark and myself to be the other 2 staff members on the committee for now? One caveat I will say is that I do anticipate needing to have Abby probably attend maybe one of the meetings. There's a lot more than just planning that's in these rules and regulations, but certainly zoning is going to be a component. At the same time, I don't want to force her to go to 4 more meetings if she doesn't have to. So honorary steering committee member, but does not need to attend all the meetings, unless there's somebody else that you want from staff on the steering committee. Okay, perfect. We will get the other 2 members from the Airport Commission, and then the esteemed members who have been nominated to be on the steering committee. We'll hear from Silas and myself shortly on setting up this first kickoff meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So 7E, Cable Commission appointment. We have an opening there on the Cable Commission. We had a great candidate, one of the finalists that was one of the city council member potential candidates that showed some interest in that. And so with Councilmember Valento's recommendation, I propose that we appoint Renee Fagan for a 3-year term starting in February here, going to end of January of 27. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. All right, I failed to add one other item to the agenda, and I don't know if I can do this at this point or not. This is, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, about liaison positions changing a little bit once we got a full council seated. And so if I'm able to, without amending the agenda, or we can do it, I guess, on the next meeting too.
We don't, we'd have to have a motion to amend the agenda, but we could certainly just add it to the next meeting agenda as well.
Okay. So we could make that motion now to amend it, or no?
Yeah, if there's,
I would make a motion to amend the agenda to assign a new liaison position.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, great. So then, with that, I am recommending that we appoint Kevin Miller to the school district liaison for, I said, a 1-year term, I think, or is that for the full term of his seat?
it looks like historically, these have been
Each
for the
year?
duration of
Oh.
the appointment, but we could do it 1 year
Okay.
as well.
Well, I think just the duration of the seat. So, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just clarify, I misspoke a little bit. Typically, when a new council is seated, that's when those seats are. So that would be for the duration of Councilmember Miller's
Okay.
seat.
All right. Great. All right, we're at staff updates. Jolene, start.
I don't have any updates this evening.
Anything, Abby?
Just one update. Wednesday night, the Planning Commission will hold 2 public hearings on zoning ordinance amendments. As I think all the council is aware, we're kind of doing a how to eat an elephant bite size at a time on zoning code updates. So they'll be reviewing lighting regulations and definitions, making recommendations to come forward to this body. You'll be seeing that in early March. The public, it will be public hearing, and the public's welcome to come and listen or comment at the.
Great. Dave, anything for us?
Yeah, just one update. Councilmember Erickson was looking for some additional information on some work we did last week, which then brings me to the point I should probably update the rest of the council on kind of the emerald ash borer. I know last fall we adopted a nuisance tree ordinance and a right-of-way tree policy, which basically turned every tree in the right-of-way the city's problem now, whether they're good or bad. We had funded $25,000 last year to do ash tree removal this year. We spent some of those dollars getting last year's list cleaned up. I know last year in the fall, we had talked about possibly getting a city contract with a contractor to hopefully try to reduce costs for residents and then for our own trees, pick out the ones that are too large for us to cut down. Looking tonight to see if you want me to look into that and see if that's something the city would like to do, get a preferred contractor, or if we'd like the residents to choose who would they.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes,
may,
yes.
I know that other cities have done what they refer to as a preferred contractor. So essentially, you put out the all-call contractors to say, give us a bid, you know, and then you sort of down and all that kind of stuff. And you then just publish all their bids and customer, the private people can choose. Companies to put out their best. Option, but others can make that choice. Lock the private sector, private people into that.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that. I mean, there's already been a lot of tree removal activity in the city, and it's only going to increase. So anything we can do to help local citizens kind of know where to begin and have some sense of what a fair price is, I think that would be time well spent.
I will say, we received fair, but it wasn't, you know, every tree is different, and it's hard to put that pricing out there and then have. It was a 1-year timeframe, of course, but I think it's still a good idea. I'm just warning you, probably not going to get 10.
Nelson, Dave?
Yeah, no, we can get some contractors, and I know we've had a number call and ask if we have, you know, an RFP that they can go through to become, you know, get on this list and be on the city's, you know, website, or to point, we can do it both ways. Some cities just for themselves have a contractor that does all their tree trimming and trees. We take down whatever we can, and the ones that we just can't do that are in power lines or leaning over a house, or, you know, just wait, somebody come and limb them down and we haul them away. So trying to do most economical of the ones that we can handle, but I think the biggest help will be residents. I get a number of residents who call and know it's their tree and know it's their responsibility, but just don't want to get bamboozled, right? You look up, you type in tree removal on Google and you get 50,000 hits, and I think more people just want to say, okay, have these people been vetted, you know, at the city? So I think that's the most helpful for the residents themselves.
Great.
They all look dead right now, so the calls aren't coming in, but pretty soon we're going to be able to tell the difference.
All right,
That's it.
okay. Ryan, do you have anything else for us tonight?
Yep, Mayor, City Council, just friendly reminder, not this tomorrow, but following Tuesday, March 4th is the Broadway Avenue open house, but that will be held over at Forest Lake Area Schools Early Childhood Family Education Building, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So I'll talk about the Broadway maintenance project there. And then Tuesday after that one, day after our next city council meeting, March 11th, MnDOT's will be having a Highway 97 public open house, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Here at City Hall up in the community room.
Great, and we'll get some social media out on that, Jolene, on both those. Yeah, great. Thanks. Amanda, anything else?
Just a quick update on cannabis. It's been a while since you've had one of those. So last week, the Office of Cannabis Management reopened their application program for licenses. That's going to be closing in March. Right now, their guess is that they will be issuing licenses that are not capped. If you recall, there were certain types of licenses that had caps on them, or excuse me, had social equity applicant caps. So they had to match those. If you are not a social equity applicant license type, so that's going to be your cultivators, the growers, some of the manufacturers, things like that, they expect to be issuing those licenses sometime this spring. If you are one of the licenses that is going to be capped, they are hoping to be issuing those sometime, going through those lotteries, and then issuing those licenses in June is what they're estimating right now, June or July. The rules that they are hoping to have the kind of first round of the rules established by mid to end of March. Not really sure what's going to come of that, or what type of business activity it's going to create in the city, but it does look like here, second half of 2025, there should be some actual businesses opening up within the state. Available for questions, but I'm not sure.
And or do you prefer Mark or Administrator Statz, or how do you?
I'll be late for supper. Mark is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just want to thank everybody for the welcome, the warm welcome, whether it was putting on a nice little event for us on Thursday and being able to bring my family here and all of you and all the commissioners on some of your committees, employees, and just people from the community. I've been surprised at how many just all the random community members really felt welcomed, and I thank everybody for making it feel that way. 5 days in, I don't think I've screwed anything up yet, so I think we're on a good pace. And no, I'm really looking forward to digging in. Right now, I think I told Abby, I'm just accepting all meeting invites. Anyone that wants one, I just accept, and I'll figure out who they are when I meet with them. And getting to know all the various intricacies of the city, having a great time learning. And at some point, I'll know about the organization to then really start back into the ship. It really is. So, yeah, I think, you know, I'm all the intricacies of folks, and
We're glad to have you and appreciate the work you're putting in so far, so thanks. Let's see, any updates, Councilman Larson?
I'd just like to mention that Friday and Saturday, Mayor, Council, we attended some training from the League of Minnesota Cities in Plymouth, and I think we learned a lot. We brought a lot of things back, take-backs to that, and some of it I hope we can apply forward.
Erickson?
Yeah, I was able to attend that same training on Friday. I missed Saturday, unfortunately. And then this morning I had the chance to meet with Mark, Abby, and our new EDA Commissioner, Jonathan Wright, to kind of get him up to speed, and as well as, you know, kind of get a background on what's been happening these last couple of years while I've been off the EDA. So appreciate you leading that, Abby.
Great. Councilmember Miller?
I have nothing.
Lento?
I don't have anything either.
Okay. I don't have much. We had the Rotary Plunge this weekend. I want to thank Public Works and staff helping navigate that. It was a moving target, so we appreciate that. I'd also like to thank Ryan's firm, Bolton & Mink, for being one of the main sponsors for that event, so thank you to Bolton & Mink for that. And it was a great day, raised some money, and I think everyone had a good time. So without that, if there's no other business to come forward, I call the meeting adjourned.